There's so much symbolism and typology even in any of the constructs of the temple. And the rituals that were involved, the sacrificial rituals, they pointed to the greater reality, the great sacrifice that was to be made on man's behalf. Without the shedding of blood, there can be no forgiveness of sins. And the ceremony of the red heifer was very important because that was to consecrate, of course, the priesthood.
Yeah.
And the red heifer, the red symbolizes the blood of Christ. And seeing that Christ was pure, there was to be no fault in them. Just like in the lamb, it had to be without fault. So the red heifers had to be without fault for the consecration. Because even the priests were a type of Christ.
Yeah.
Everything was a typology. So now, here we have an interesting new development from the 22nd of May 2023. CBN reports that the red heifer ceremony can probably take place in the near future because they finally bred pure red heifers. And they have been taken to Israel for this event. Now this, of course, puts a time frame on it.
That's it. Now all of a sudden it starts giving a date.
Correct, because the red heifers had to be 3 years old. That's also very interesting. You know, Jesus' ministry was 3.5 years old. They have to be over 3 years old. And the typology is immense.
Yeah.
Now, once they start enacting this and inaugurating a priesthood, that means that they reject the priesthood of Christ.
Did he say that, the Sanhedrin?
He said that exactly. So in other words, it must be based on a deception. And here is a man who is reporting on CBN News, and even he's confused, and makes some very important points.
Correct. Let's listen.
Let's listen to what he has to say.
9 Jewish priests, plot of land on the Mount of Olives, and 5 red heifers. All these elements are in place for what some Jews and Gentiles believe is the key to building the third Jewish temple. Some also believe it indicates the coming of the Messiah.
The 5 red heifers are now in a secure, undisclosed location in Israel. Plans include moving them sometime soon to a visitor's center in Shiloh, where the tabernacle of the Lord once stood for nearly 400 years. The book of Numbers explains that ashes of the red heifer are used to purify priests for their service in the temple. To replicate the ceremony mentioned in the Bible, they need to be at least 3 years old. And within that time span, they cannot have a blemish or anything that would disqualify them for the ceremony, even one white or black hair. According to those working on the project, the ceremony of the red heifer needs to be performed on the Mount of Olives and in a place that would have looked directly into where the temple stood. The land I'm standing on, bought 12 years ago, fits both of those standards.
So we have the priest, we have the red heifer, we have the land, and we have everything ready. We just need to wait another 1.5 years.
Byron Stinson of B'nai Israel, a group dedicated to building up biblical Israel, works with Rabbi Mamo and helped find the red heifers in the U.S. He says these would be the first in 2,000 years, and that the process toward a third Jewish temple began when the Jewish people started their return to the Promised Land from the 4 corners of the world, culminating with Israel becoming a nation. Stinson says they plan to invite everyone to the red heifer ceremony that may take place in Passover 2024.
Certainly a lot of interpretations on this, but we need to keep in mind the words of the prophet Jeremiah that the Ark of the Covenant won't even be remembered anymore. So how can you have a third temple without that Ark of the Covenant? There wasn't one in the second temple and in Herod's temple. But do we need that ark in order to really establish that temple? And then do we have the words of Stephen as he was being stoned, that God does not dwell in temples made from hands. He dwells in you and me. Are we the third temple? Well, obviously people are of different minds about this. Does a temple need to be on the Temple Mount in order for the Messiah to come? Is the Messiah going to construct that temple? If so, what are the sacrifices? Is the sacrifice of Jesus enough for all eternity as a Christian? I believe that.
Now, Martin, the second temple didn't have the Ark of the Covenant because it had been hidden away.
Yeah.
But Jesus was the embodiment of the law.
That's it.
So he was in that second temple. And therefore, the antitypical ark was actually in the temple,
Yeah.
complete with mercy seat and everything. So it was there. But the third one,
Yeah.
could it have it?
No.
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 So it was in the first temple as a type. It was in the second temple as an antitype. But the third temple, it's totally lacking.
Exactly. So and if Jesus is not there, either through the Ark of the Covenant or literally, it's like Jesus said, it's desolate.
It's desolate, totally desolate. All right, Martin, let's look at this from a biblical perspective. What was the purpose of Israel in the first place? Isaiah 49 verse 6. And he said, "It is a light thing that thou shouldst be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give ye for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the ends of the earth." Did they fulfill that commission?
No, unfortunately not.
No. They ensconced themselves and said salvation was for them alone. The rest would be driven into the sea.
Yeah. There's a few nations that have similar viewpoints on that.
Yes. All right. John 3:18. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. Didn't they just admit that they don't believe?
Yeah.
So aren't they condemned as a nation? Not as individuals.
No.
Anybody has access to the kingdom of God, but the only way to get into the kingdom is through Jesus.
That's it.
They've rejected him.
They rejected him the first time. They're still rejecting him.
So in other words, their whole temple construction that they are planning, and all the red heifers and everything that they require for that, is a deception.
Yeah.
Matthew 23:37, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Have they changed?
No.
No. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate, Matthew 23:38. What does that mean?
That means it won't be occupied again.
It's done.
It's done.
It's over.
Yes.
Is there any point in building a third temple?
No. It's a deception, like you said.
All right, let's have a look at Luke, what he has to say about that same issue. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. And verily I say unto you, you shall not see me until the time come when you shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. In other words, not until the second coming.
Not someone walking on earth and going to build this temple or sit in it.
No. And as he said, they're not waiting for Jesus. They're waiting for someone else.
Yeah.
Well, certainly not Jesus. Well, Jesus predicted the destruction of Jerusalem in Matthew 24. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Is that emphatic?
Very much so. Definitely.
Okay. Now, let's ask the question, why? And let's answer the question through the Bible. Luke 19:44. And I shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another. Why? Because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. Okay, why? Because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. What visitation?
When Jesus came to this earth.
Exactly. They knew it not.
Yeah. They rejected him?
They rejected it. They passed it by. And that is why the house is desolate. And as long as they reject him and keep him up, the house is desolate.
That's it.